Greetings, everyone. My name is Luis Molina, and I'm the host of the Life Puro podcast. Today's guest is Ryan Poehler, who is our cigar broker, and we're glad to have him on. So get your favorite cigar, cut it, light it, and hopefully you'll enjoy this episode. So Ryan Poehler, thanks for coming in today.
What's up, Lewis? Thanks for having me, buddy.
Yeah. You are the first Poehler to be on
all
film
downhill
here.
From here, then I guess.
No, come on. Yeah, I was just asking you earlier if you've seen a lot of podcasts being done by shops.
Yeah, I can't really say I've seen many shops do them. I've done some podcasts with consumers that hang out at shops or from a shop. Maybe did a radio show actually out of Dallas. A guy used to have a show on Saturday afternoon, so I did that once years ago. But that's about it. This is a unique, special space you have here. Pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, this is our newest initiative, right? So trying to talk to cigar industry people. We've had some good conversations over the last few episodes. So thanks for coming in and helping us out.
Yeah, absolutely.
And giving us insight into what you do. So yeah, with that said, before I guess we get started, you brought a cigar here for me. Can you explain a little bit about it?
Yeah, that's the new one from Aganorsa Leaf. That's the Anniversario Connecticut shade. So the Anniversario is a line that we started, we launched in 2013. It was a PCA exclusive for attendees only to encourage people to come to the show. But maybe more importantly for us at Aganorsa, it was a cigar that, we did limited, only 250 boxes of 10 to encourage the retailer to come to our booth first before they blew their budget and came and saw us in the half day.
Yeah.
So each year it was a Corojo blend from 2013 to 2019. We'd have some fun with it, doing various sizes. Mm-hmm. And then in 2021, of course, no show in 20, but in 2021, we did it for the first time in a Maduro blend, and people went crazy for it. So there was a lot of requests from our retailers and our consumers to release it as part of our core line, our regular lineup, as opposed to a limited product. So we launched the Corojo and the Maduro in 2022 when we rebranded the core lines, the validation, and we launched the Corojo and the Maduro blends in Toro, Robusto, Gordo. And we actually did a 4 size in the Corojo. It's a box press Lancero. It's one of the fun sizes we did years ago that people loved. So we actually have a 4 size in the Corojo. So this year, we complemented the Corojo and Maduro with the new Connecticut shade blend. Now this one just comes in 2 sizes, a Toro and a Robusto.
Okay.
But yeah, the latest, and we just started shipping, I guess, about 2 weeks ago. And they are being well received. Actually, I'm already seeing reorders on it. So that's encouraging.
Yeah, I'll give a little synopsis as I get into the smoke, what the flavor profile is. But right off the bat, it's very clean.
Yeah, it's going to be, I like to say it's not your grandfather's Connecticut, and I think we've seen more and more of that in our industry, Connecticut shades that are going to be a little fuller in strength, a little more complex, a little more flavor. So I'd classify that personally kind of in that low, medium strength profile, depending on your palate, though. Some people will say it's medium strength, but you'll get a little pepper to it, nice, creamy, buttery to it. It's a nice cigar.
Yeah. And the Maduro version of this, is that the black and silver band?
Correct, exactly. Yeah. So the Connecticut shade, as you can see, is a blue label with blue boxes. Maduro's black label with black boxes, and the Corojo, the original, is a white band with white boxes.
Okay, so the Corojo is still being offered.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, all 3 blends now.
Yeah. No, that's great. And a lot of this, I feel, is this part of like Terrence's initiative, like rebranding?
Yeah, that's been the big push for us the past couple of years is, in the past, we launch a line and, a couple of years later it'd come in, different looking boxes and a different blend in different sizes. And a couple of years later, we'd introduce a 3rd blend in different boxes, different sizes. So it wasn't a real uniform look or message to our product. I think we've always had wonderful blends. I'd hear it all the time from our retailers. A lot of the people we make product for behind the scenes, or we've co-opted with in the past and, made kings of them. But sometimes that didn't relate to us necessarily, right? With a lot of confusion. Our JFR line's always been a crowd pleaser. That was, consumer and retailer driven product. But some of our core lines, just hit that mark as far as messaging. So yeah, that's been the big push for us the last couple of years, is to get everything rebranded with a more uniform look, a more uniform message. Something we learned from our retailers during COVID is there are a lot of consumers that don't know what they're smoking, right? They've been smoking the same cigar for years and years. And, a lot of shops during COVID had to do curbside. So, a consumer would come to the door hey, will you grab me a box of my cigars? I'm like, sure, absolutely. Remind me, what is it you smoke? And it was like, I
Yeah,
think
yeah,
I had a red and gold band on it, that kind of thing, right?
yeah,
So, and that narrows it down to about half the cigars in the humidor. So, for us, if you can't remember the funny name Aganorsa, maybe you'll remember the logo, right? And
yeah,
our leaf is our strength, is the meaning behind that. So, it's the one with the arm on it, that kind of thing. So, it's been important, but it's, again, blends have always been there. We just need a little help with our marketing, our merchandising. Terrence has helped us with that. Of course, directly from the retailers and consumers driving us. We did an independent survey a couple years ago, which was
mm,
nice. It was anonymous, so you didn't have to put your name to it. Sometimes you take people like Terrence or our president Paul Palmer around to visit retailers. They want to be a nice host, and everything you do is great. Well, that's nice, but we can't correct things if
yeah.
we're not aware of what's wrong. And so this was a nice way of letting our retailers give us some direct feedback as to what we need to do. And we heard a lot of, again, the blends are spot on. You guys got great blends, but you still have a little work to do with your merchandise and your marketing. So
Yeah.
so that's been the big push the last couple of years for us.
Yeah, I've seen a few cigar companies kind of go through this like rebranding, I guess trying to tweak the look, the feel to really differentiate themselves. I'm thinking of Illusione, they've gone through.
Mhm.
I know you don't rep them. Did you rep them at one point?
Yeah, I repped
Yeah,
Dion
yeah.
for several years,
Yeah.
and we, of course, make Dion's products behind the scenes,
Yeah.
for him at Aganorsa. So yeah,
Yeah, that's right.
yeah.
That's right.
hmm
Well, I guess to get more like from your background, can you explain like when did you first start smoking a cigar?
Gee, I grew up in the business. So my
Yeah.
dad started in the business back in the early 80s, I guess probably about 80, 81.
Hmm.
Started with Savinelli as that was the business back in the day, pipe tobaccos.
Yeah, in the 80s,
And
huh?
yeah,
Yeah.
and but kind of tough to make a living, feed seven kids, on that alone. So made an agreement with Ruben back then to be an independent. So he picked up other lines. He's a rep for Arturo Fuente, La Orleana Menez, La Gloria, Arango distributors out of Chicago. And of course, through in the day, most of your shops were in malls, and you had all these different knickknacks in the malls to try to pull
Yeah.
in traffic. So we had a garage full of anything you could think of: shaving kits, pens, canes. He kind of sold all those things through the years. But I've grown up with cigars, and there was a thing that Marvin Samuel used to do at Drew Estate. When I used to be a rep with him, and would like to ask people about the first cigar they had and that experience. And I couldn't honestly tell you, the first time
Yeah.
what my first cigar was or what that I feel like I've been smoking cigars, take a pull off my dad's cigar or whatever, as a kid, or go camping with my buddies, and in high school or whatever, and smoke cigars. But I've been doing this now full time since '98. So
It's been 98, huh?
yeah,
Wow.
'98. Repped quite a few lines through the years.
Yeah. Oh, I know. I remember meeting you back in 2003 when I used to work for another shop in New Orleans in
Mhm.
Metairie, and just thinking back, all the companies you and your brothers have represented. I mean, a lot of people forget, like the big names now started small,
Mhm.
and they needed help, from a broker like yourself.
Yeah, I think they're all happy to pay a commission of nothing when they're a small
Yeah.
company, but as you build it to a larger company, it
Yeah.
gets maybe sometimes to harder to write that check.
Right.
So I'll joke about my job's to kind of work myself out of a job, right?
Yep.
As you build a company, sometimes they'll go in house on you or they'll sell to someone larger. It's just kind of the nature of the beast. It is what it is, but you accept it as an independent. But yeah, we've helped build lines and worked hand in hand with companies like Drew Estate, CAO, Perdomo, Camacho, Gurkha, Oliva, Alec Bradley, Rocky Battelle, list goes on and on. And we
Yeah.
still have a nice portfolio of other manufacturers that see fit to keep us around, I guess,
Yeah.
thus
Well,
far.
well, list some of the current companies that you represent. I know obviously Aganorsa Leaf is there.
Aganor
Who else?
Salif, HVC, Rainier
Okay.
Lorenzo. Traditionally we made all of his products as well behind the scenes. But about a year and a half ago, he opened his own factory and has slowly been transitioning production from our factories to his. And he informed me at the trade show that it's 100% of his inventory is coming from his own factory now. So,
Wow.
so yeah, it
Okay.
happened quicker than I thought it would actually. So still Aganorsa's tobacco.
Right.
He's like family to the people at Aganorsa, but yeah, he's manufacturing everything himself, and also represent Blackbird out of the Dominican. We also represent My Father cigars, La Galera, and then St. Dupont products, accessories out of Paris.
Oh yeah, yeah. That's great that you're representing them now.
Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, give me a little insight. So you talked about HVC. He's one I was very surprised to see him, like at least in terms of his sales evolution. He's really kind of catapulted, right? Like he's seeing an
Yeah.
increase in sales every year, it seems.
Yeah. He's had great increase. It's one of the challenges he had is, with Aganorsa, we make, again, we were making product for him and making product for other people. And, not intentionally, but sometimes, they kind of be put on the back burner. I don't think,
Oh,
again, not intentional, but, okay, hey, it's been a run on JFR or whatever it may be. And, we
yeah.
got a, production on that. And sometimes they're kind of waiting for their inventory to show. So I think Rainier to realize to continue to grow at the clip he's been growing, he had to put some skin in the game and open his own factory. So I think it's the right decision. It's the right move to continue to grow.
And what does HVC stand for?
Havana
What's his
City,
background?
Havana City.
Havana
So,
City, yeah.
so he was born in Havana, Cuba, and he came over here to the States to work with Eduardo Fernandez, the owner of Aganorsa. Actually, not on the tobacco end of the business, but on the cattle end of his business. Eduardo's an agricultural conglomerate, so cattle's his largest division. He's got an operation called Sexing Technologies, and he's got labs around the world, based out of College Station, Texas, but labs around the world. And so cattle's his largest division, pork's his second largest, then tobacco. He's in the rice and humus, coffee in the past, sheep, horses. He's actually, I believe, the second largest landowner in Nicaragua. So he's a big conglomerate. And Rainier's background, don't quote me on this, but university, I think it was agricultural sciences or something like that. And so he actually came over from Havana to work with Eduardo initially on the cattle end of the business, and a bit of a culture shock. I put him at one of his labs up in Madison, Wisconsin. So it goes from
Yeah.
sunny, warm climate of Havana, Cuba to Madison, Wisconsin.
Yeah.
But he was a young man, and it's a college town, so I think he ended up enjoying it. But
Yeah.
he always had a passion for the cigar end of the business, tobacco, growing up in Cuba. So he was kind of doing a little bit of both. He launched his line. Oh, I want to say it was probably about 12 years ago. Launched his line with us at our booth one year, and just kind of, was still doing the cattle part of the business, but also, kind of getting his feet wet and doing a little bit in the cigars. And it's continued, to your point, grow year after year to the point where, yeah, he had to open his own factory.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, it's good seeing him at the trade shows. Like it just seems like there's more activity around his booth every year. So that's pretty cool to see.
yeah, got a great palate. And might be a little biased, but I think Aganorsa has some of the best tobacco in the business.
Mhm.
And so, yeah, combine the two, and he's learned, real well, packaging, his merchandising, marketing, maybe a little quicker learner than we were at Aganorsa. Kind of took us 20 years to start getting it right, and he's learned, and it's maybe only taken him 10 years. With some of the new presentation coming out with Selection #1 and the real bright green and yellow boxes. Really pops off the shelf. The hotcakes have been real popular. The 500th anniversary, for the 500th anniversary
Oh,
of
yeah.
Havana, Cuba, his hometown, not his obviously, but yeah. So I think he's really come together with again, the tobaccos, the blends, and the merchandising.
I love that HVC 500. That
Yeah.
probably is my favorite
Yeah.
cigar from HVC.
Yeah, absolutely, great smoke. I hate to use the term Cubanesque because I think that's
Yeah, I
overused in
know,
our
I know.
industry, but I think it applies well to his cigar. And not my words. I hear it constantly from consumers and
Mhm.
retailers. So
Mhm.
absolutely, it definitely has that look.
And initially, the HVC 500 was supposed to be a one and done, maybe, or it was like a limited. But I guess it did so well. Did he always intend for it to be open stock?
Don't quote me on that. I don't know. I can't recall. I don't think it was ever really going to be a one and done. The 500th anniversary. But there have been some cigars like that. He was one that still to this date, one of my favorite blends that he did was the La Rosa 520, and that was named after his address there in Havana, Cuba. He lived on
Oh.
520 Rose Street or whatever, right? So that's where that came from. In fact, I just ran across a box of those over in Lafayette this morning. And so I ended up buying a box of those myself because you can't find them anymore,
Oh,
So I
wow.
was like, oh, wow, you've got
Yeah.
the La Rosa 520. So I bought a box of those from the retailer over there. So,
Oh, cool.
yeah.
And how was the trade show this year, the PCA? I didn't really get to see you much. It was just so busy, it seemed.
Yeah, it was a great show.
Yeah.
Rock and rolled. It's um, I
How
was
did you
over.
personally do? Like,
I did
you felt,
great. It's being
up,
independent, you're
down,
kind of run around everywhere, but it seemed up. I don't know honestly the final numbers, but it seemed good. We were busy the entire time. I had appointments the entire time and squeezing people in between appointments. So it was a
Mhm.
great show.
Yeah. And let's go back to your operation. So is it just you operating the brokerage, or is it you and your brother?
Yeah, I've got a couple brothers in the business,
Mhm.
Tom and Jason. And Tom just kind of does Tom, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And it's something we brought in a gentleman named Albert Cisneros several years ago to work with us. And
Hmm.
Albert and I have a relationship. He used to be a retailer in the Dallas area, and we were actually friends prior to being a retailer. So,
Hmm.
so good relationship. And I was at a point where I really could use some help with the growth of my lines. And I
Yeah.
cover a large territory, 8
Yeah.
states.
Yeah. What states do you
Texas,
cover?
Louisiana, Oklahoma, Arkansas, Kansas, Missouri, Iowa, and Nebraska. So it keeps me
Man.
busy. And so I was at a place where I really needed, an extra hand, right?
Hmm.
And I presented to both my brothers, hey, I'm going to hire, Albert, not considering it's going to happen. Would you guys like to be a part of it? We can all, split the cost, of Albert. And unfortunately for Tom, he was going through a divorce at the time, and so it just wasn't good timing for him to
Hmm.
bring on that additional cost. And my brother Jason initially declined it as well, but really quickly reconsidered. I think about a day later, he called me back and said, "You know what? I've been thinking about it, and I could use the help too." So we started working with Albert that way, and working a little closer that way. But Tom now has brought in his future son-in-law Joey
Yeah.
to work with him.
Yeah.
So Tom, but yeah, we all watch out for one another.
Hmm.
I'll take orders on their lines, and including Tom and Joey's lines, and they'll do the same for me.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty cool, like seeing this family-run entity in the cigar industry. It's awesome.
Yeah.
Starting with your father, and then
Yeah.
now you and your brothers.
Yeah, didn't think it'd be something growing up that I would be in, right? It's especially in the 80s, it was kind of a tough way to make a living. Like I said, my dad, sold anything and everything he could find, to sell.
Yeah.
And but again, kind of a struggle to feed 7 kids, my mom and my dad, 9 total. But of course the boom happened, and
Yeah, that must
everything
have been
took
a
off.
huge windfall. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, absolutely. So,
very fortunate.
finally got a microwave, got cable, things like that at the house, so it was kind of cool. And then, yeah, out of college, I was selling television airtime, and the opportunity presented itself to help my father and my brother Tom with some of their lines, and pick up my own lines. And I was always more passionate about cigars, and I guess it counts, so that's what I enjoyed. I'm not a cubicle and office 9 to 5
Yeah.
type person. So chase the passion as opposed to the money. And there were a couple regrets in those first couple of years. Maybe I should have chased the money, right? As I was building a portfolio and relations with my retailers. But in hindsight, the best decision I ever made, and couldn't be happier.
Hmm. So you were traveling along with your father
Yeah.
even before getting into the business.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
How
Yeah,
old? Like,
absolutely.
what was your first shop that you can
Actually,
remember?
the first thing I ever did with a brother of mine, Chris, who's not in the business, first thing we ever did was back in the day, my dad was a representative for Newman Fuente. And one of the first jobs we did was helping Newman reset Eckerd's. I don't know if you
Oh,
remember
I remember.
Eckerd's,
Yeah, I
right? But
remember
the old
Eckerd's.
drugstores.
Yep.
So we would go through, and they'd have a planogram, and we'd have to go through with all the El Productos and all their domestic made products and reset those. So we did that for a summer as a kid. I think that was probably between my junior and senior year in high school.
What brands would some like Eckerd's carry from Jason Newman? Do you
God, we
remember?
reset
Would that be
everything.
like factory throwouts?
No, they didn't have those then. It was,
Rigoletto, I think there's
yeah, I
Rigoletto.
think there were Rigolettos. There was El Producto. We'd reset everything over there, So we reset everything. So
Yeah, yeah.
so yeah, that was my first,
Cuesta Ray, probably, right? Do you remember that?
yeah, of course I remember Cuesta Ray. I don't remember much Cuesta Ray resetting much of that in the shops.
In the
But again, we're
drugstores,
going
yeah.
back, so far now,
Yeah.
over 30 years ago. So forgive me, but yeah, that was my first stint. And then yeah, I just kind of started helping out of college, helping Tom and my dad, do some dinners and events.
Okay.
And like I said you have a knack for it, and maybe get in, work with us, help us out initially, and we'll introduce you to people. You pick up your lines, and you kind of grow from there. And that's kind of how it happened. And then my brother Jason got in the business probably around, I got in 98, I guess, and Jason got in about 2001, I think, if
Okay.
memory serves.
Yeah.
So yeah, kind of same with him. Helped him introduce him to people, helped him
Mhm.
pick up a few lines, and that's all that happened.
Yeah, because I think I remember definitely like with Jason and yourself when you represented Alec Bradley.
Yeah,
We had just picked up the shop I was working at. I think it was in 2003 or 2004. We had just picked up Alec Bradley.
the trilogies.
Yeah, I remember
that one?
those. Yeah,
Three-sided cigar.
yeah, yeah.
Yep.
But it just, I mean, to kind of emphasize the fact that you and your brothers have represented maybe dozens, if not more,
Yeah.
cigar companies over the years.
Yeah, we've been blessed. We, with our our network of retailers and our
Hmm.
network of other representatives around the country, and in a lot of cases, manufacturers. We can,
Yeah.
we're blessed to get a lot of offers for representation. Our dad always said, "Don't be greedy. Pick a few good lines and work them deep." So we've always stood by that. That's kind of what we do, and we give real consideration before we represent something. We do a lot of due diligence.
Yeah.
I'm not here to just collect a check. We hope to work with our manufacturers for decades. But yeah, we've been very blessed to work with some great manufacturers through the years.
And I always found intriguing that you or your brothers have actually even like influenced some of these cigar companies and their manufacturers or the strategies
Yeah,
in which they
I
sell
mean, talk to my
cigars.
brother Tom. they're all
Yeah.
his ideas,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But I joke about we share our ideas, and
Yeah.
that's the
Yeah.
nice thing about independence. I think
Hmm.
we're all there to grow business together, right? And we all work 100% commission. So if our retailers aren't selling cigars, then well, our manufacturers aren't selling cigars. We're not selling cigars. We're not getting paid, and we're not feeding our families. So that's the nice thing is we all share ideas, and again, a lot of the ideas that we share though are ideas that you guys give to us as retailers or consumers give to us
Yeah.
as we travel our territory, and so
Yeah, I think that's an interesting dynamic of like the brokerage system in that your incentives are aligned with the retailers.
we're
They're aligned
partners.
with the manufacturers.
Correct.
Not to dismiss like the company, say like the outside sales force or
Hmm.
people who work for the company directly.
Hmm.
But like brokers, yeah, you're working on commission, so you want to see the turn.
Correct,
Yeah.
exactly. It's not marching orders and we got to sell this or we have to sell that or this is the big push and you get a bonus. It's again, you've got to turn. Sometimes I can tell you what sells for us nationally and what maybe some of my better sellers are in my portfolio. In a specific line, let's say Aganorsa, but again, that might be different from market to market, and sometimes different shops in the same market. You got to consider
Mhm.
those things. But again, yeah, we see it as a partnership with our retailers.
Yeah.
Again, as if our retailer is growing, then we're growing, and everybody wins.
Yeah. And even like the newsletter that you and your brother send out, like I find that valuable
Thank
just
you very
to like read
much.
into that and maybe get some ideas.
Terrence
Yeah.
Riley, did you hear that? He
Oh,
finds that very valuable.
yeah. Oh,
So
yeah.
I like to tease Terrence
Yeah.
because I'm horrible about social media, and they're always
Yeah.
teasing me and trying to get me to do a little more with social media. And I talk about the value of our newsletter. But that's something we try to do on a monthly basis. It doesn't
Mhm.
always happen on a monthly basis, depending on time. But yeah, we try to put in there, different,
Like trends or just
yeah. I mean, exactly. We put in there whether it be interesting articles,
mhm.
whether it be ratings that our lines have received, educational information for employees, new employees in shops, things like that. And then we'll put in there, order forms,
Mhm.
credit card authorization forms, things like that for our retailers. But yeah, we've gotten a lot of compliments on that. We email that, blast that out to all of our retailers in our 8 states, and see real value in it.
Yeah.
So
So on average, how many companies like for manufacturers are like new prospects are calling on you and your brother to like for you guys to pick them up? Like average count maybe per year.
yeah,
I
that's a
mean, I
good
imagine it'd be
question.
like you guys would be bombarded,
Yeah,
but maybe it's
it's
different with like the FDA when there's kind of that freeze.
yeah. I don't know. We probably get half a dozen to a dozen offers per year. We
Yeah.
kind of usually sit down, around the trade show and go visit with different people. Usually kind of reconsider things maybe in the new year, that kind of thing.
Okay.
But back in the day, there were a lot more. I would say. But again, I think a lot of people realize that we're not here to collect a check. We're here
Right.
to kind of stay laser focused in what we have, and but yeah, there are a lot of good lines out there. It's just again, I don't want to do a disservice to the
Mhm.
current manufacturers we represent. Don't want to do a disservice to a new manufacturer. Again, collect a check and not give them the real attention that they deserve, and quite frankly, to our retailers. I mean, I think a retailer, what
Mhm.
they'll here you are 2 hours later talking about your eighth line, and the eyes are rolling in the back of their head type thing, right? So
Yeah.
so you got to respect their time as well.
Yeah. Yeah, because going back to like your father's advice about being selective, don't just go for quantity. You got I know you guys do your due diligence. So when you and your brother pick up a new company, at least us as a retailer, we look at that with more weight.
Yeah,
Figuring out okay, these guys, if the Polars chose this company, then it's worth considering bringing them in.
appreciate that.
Yeah.
Yeah, we try to, what we would like to have are, vertically integrated companies. But
Mm,
there are very few actually in the industry that are actually vertically integrated, that are growers. And then the very least, we'd like, a manufacturer to have a factory, have some skin in the game. Not to
mhm,
say there haven't been exceptions through the years, obviously, but those are, some of the things that we look for.
mhm.
It's, I think, getting harder and harder for some of these people that don't have a factory, right, to get into the game now.
Yeah.
More challenging. There's so many good cigars out there, I mean, but I think it's important, and especially when you start to think about, again, production, things like that.
Yeah.
Again, what Renier kind of ran into, he's always been like family to Eduardo and the people at Aganorsa. But even then, it can be a challenge sometimes to get the quantities you need unless you have that factory.
Yeah,
And
if you
that's
don't
some,
if you don't control your supply chain or your
control your own
production,
destiny. Exactly.
man,
Exactly.
you're at the mercy of whatever
Yeah.
part of that chain, you know?
Yeah, and no disrespect to
Yeah.
some of the manufacturers that don't have their own factory or anything. Again, wonderful cigars out there, a lot of
Mhm.
great cigars. But these are some of the key things that we look for. Again, there have been exceptions through the years.
And that's I mean, we kinda have to consider that too, right? We get calls from companies that, they want shelf space. So we've had to come up with kinda like, I guess, a checklist or some requirements, in order to incentivize us, give you shelf space.
Yeah.
And that's kind of one of the characteristics, like, are you vertically integrated? Do you actually own your production?
Hmm.
I mean, there's just so many brands that out there that are made by, say, an Aganorsa.
Hmm.
Like, what differentiates you as a new company? Like, why should I bring you in?
Yeah, absolutely. Those are
Yeah.
things you have to consider. So,
And then, like one thing I found different in the cigar industry, comparing us to like the supermarket industry, how a lot of these supermarkets charge slot fees. That they'll charge manufacturers for shelf space.
hmm,
It's kind of like a rental.
yeah.
Like we don't see that in our industry, and I just found that kind of interesting. But I wonder if going forward, if that could be a new potential trend.
It could
You know,
possibly. I don't know though. It's one of these.
but it's so
I
small
I
too. I
actually
guess.
I worked with a manufacturer years ago. It was probably 20 years ago, and I won't name names, but they had a concept like that where
Hmm.
you essentially, we would cut checks,
Yep.
to retailers every quarter for, having that shelf space. But honestly, I would I didn't see the sense in it. I'm thinking, here's an old worn out line that it does it warrant that space. I mean,
Mm.
yes, you're getting this check quarterly, but meanwhile, you could have brought in
Um,
this line and
see more turns.
yeah,
Yeah.
turned it multiple times and
Yeah.
made, four times that check, right? So I don't know. I mean, maybe some people will explore that, but ultimately, you're always trying to, the game of, and you see what's new, right? And everybody wants to try the new thing, and there, again, so many good cigars. And today, have a line that maybe, has a run for 6 months, a year, 2 years, and then consumers are moving on to the next hot thing. And what's new, right? Looking for that. So, I kind of always classify, you got your A lines, your B lines, and your C lines, right? And
Yeah.
those, you're always trying to, those C lines, and something might start as an A line but kind of fade into a C line, right?
Hmm.
And so, the game is, you're kind of closing out those C lines and bringing in something new and fresh, and trying to create another A line for yourself that turns, and warrants having, multiple boxes in back stock. So
Yeah. Because I bring that concept up like with slot fees, or I think that's what they're called. Because I won't name who visited us recently, but he owns a cigar company, a brand. He gets it outsourced to someone else, and he even brought up like, what do I have to do to get some shelf space here? And he even offered that.
hmm,
Like, are you interested in getting paid just to pay
give it a
pay
shot.
yeah pay for some amount
Shelf
of
space.
certain linear feet.
Hmm.
um so I just thought that kind of interesting,
Yeah.
especially it's so competitive. And then especially in light of, you saw the headline, I guess, a few months ago, where the FDA regulatory initiatives might be thrown out.
Yeah, let's all hope and pray that
Yeah,
happens. Yeah,
I
for
know that would
sure.
be good for you.
Yeah, I think that'd be good for us as an industry.
Yeah.
I mean, I hate to limit people.
Hmm.
Limit the consumer, limit our retailers or the
Yeah.
manufacturers. I'm all about creativity.
Hmm.
So let's hope that's the case. I mean, to me, I think they got bigger fish to fry. Than us. With vape and other.
Yeah.
So it's let's hope that's the case. Let's hope that cooler heads prevail.
Yeah, I guess most people in the industry are just expecting, if that gets canceled, I think they have to wait until a certain date. Because I guess the FDA can like plead their case and try to get it
Probably
enacted.
appeal or something like that.
Yeah,
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 I
on
don't know.
appeal.
Yeah, I don't know all the
But
details.
if
It's
they
kind of one of
don't,
those.
I mean, I guess you can imagine just an explosion of new companies, perhaps.
Perhaps, yeah,
Yeah.
perhaps. I don't know. It'll
Well,
be interesting to see where the industry goes over the next few years. You could, yeah, FDA is obviously a factor, but I mean, aside from that, is there going to be consolidation, that kind of thing? My
oh
understanding of
yeah,
visiting
yeah.
with the retailer recently is a major manufacturer sitting on hundreds of $1 million to make acquisitions. So
Hmm.
I don't know. That's kind of some of the speculation. Or do you think is ripe for the picking, that kind of
Hmm.
thing? So I don't know. I'll be honest. I'm kind of one that for a lot of gossiping hens and a lot of rumors in
Yeah.
this industry. So it's kind of one of those things that, well, I'll have the conversation, I'll hear about it, but I won't put too much stock or emotion into it. Just kind of roll with the punches.
But we've seen STG's acquisitions the last few years.
Yeah,
Namely Alec Bradley this past year. That was a huge one.
yeah, absolutely.
So I mean, it's certainly something to consider. But
Yeah,
I know, I feel that if this gets canceled, like the FDA regulations, you'll probably see new entries.
yeah,
At least you'll see new brands from
yeah.
maybe some of the existing
Yeah, I'd imagine.
manufacturers.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So you talked about your area that you traveled. It's Texas, Louisiana, Oklahoma, Nebraska,
Iowa,
Iowa.
Arkansas, Kansas,
Yeah.
Missouri. Yep.
What can you kind of give us some insight into like the pros and cons of covering such a large space? I mean, talking about a lot of end consumers think, oh man, being a cigar salesman or broker must be glamorous.
Yeah, yeah. I joke
Yeah,
about that actually. It's not
yeah,
as glamorous as I make it look,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
So, yeah, I think a lot of people think it's, staying at five-star hotels, eating five-star meals, you hang out and
yeah.
smoke cigars with people all day long and sip on bourbon and yeah, there's some of that, right? But there's definitely for me, especially as an independent, and
Hmm.
I would
You got to
imagine
watch
most
your expenses. Yeah.
absolutely, and I imagine most in-house guys as well would tell you, it's not five-star hotels. It's a lot of time where you can put your head down. It's not five-star meals. It's a drive through, and that's if you get to eat, right? I mean, you're kind of go, go, go all day. Cons, yeah, there are a lot of expenses in the territory we cover, the 8 states. There's some, representatives that are in the Northeast and they hardly ever have to turn their headlights on, right?
That's right.
It's such a concentrated population, but especially the territory that we cover as a family, it's a lot of road time, a lot of windshield time from market to market, a lot of costs out of pocket, whether it be, fuel, hotel, food, those kind of things. So I guess that would be one of the cons.
Hmm.
But I love my retailers. I love my territory. Working with my retailers for as long as we have, they've become friends. So yeah, it is like going to hang out with your friend in their living room and having a cigar. So
Yeah.
it's not a bad gig. I remember a lot of shops, the same. It's kind of like Cheers, right? You got the same motley crew in there. Your Norms and your Cliffs, no matter what time of day or what day of the week. And shop in Addison, Texas, Addison Cigar years ago. Teasing with some of the guys in there, always in there. And I think it was like a Tuesday afternoon at 3, and they're all in there playing dominoes. And I said, man, you guys are a bunch of slackers. I want to
Hmm.
grow up to be like you guys and get a job like you have, where you get to sit around all day smoking cigars. And one goes, well, Ryan, you've got a job like that. And I thought,
Yeah.
yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Not too bad a gig. Again, a little more involved than just sitting around smoking cigars, but
Yeah.
at the end of the day, there's nothing I'd rather do. It's blessed to do it. So.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. So yeah, we talked about the PCA. You felt that it was pretty good activity this year. I know usually the first 2 days are the busiest. I guess most retailers want to get in and out.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. It's it was. I'll be honest. It was kind of strange for me this year. It's again, an independent, and I decided to set appointments this year at Aganorsa with my retailers, and I figured a lot enough time to do the appointment with them and walk them to my other booths and visit with my other manufacturers, and maybe the first time I didn't do my due diligence and look at the show floor prior. So I get there, I register, I get my book, and looking like, oh my gosh, we're in the very front left corner of the show, and
oh
normally
yeah, yeah.
we're right up front in the center. And come to find out, I guess maybe PCA changed their system, or talking with the retailer, he said they actually got a system, right? That
Yeah.
used to be on the board. But I guess we used to get credit for all the way back to the tropical days. We brought out tropical tobacco in what was it, 2000, 2001. And but tropical tobacco went back to the 70s. So we would always get credit for that. Unfortunately, I guess we didn't get credit this time around for those years. We've only
Oh,
got credit for the Aganorsa days.
oh,
So not the tropical days, not the Cas Fernandez days, only since we've been under the name Aganorsa Leaf, which has only been what, 5, 6 years. So we kind of got choice and selection this year in the booth space. So I
Do
was
you think that
hiding
hurt?
up by the front left, I think we've become a destination. Everyone,
Yeah,
like I
I
said,
think
and I
so.
had appointments. It was kind of tough for me because, fortunately for me, a lot of my other manufacturers on the absolute opposite side of the floor. So, here I am, running from one to the other booth
Oh,
all
yeah.
all week
Jeez.
long. The one benefit, I was close to a bathroom this year, though. That's the first, so
Yeah.
that was nice.
Yeah.
But I think we're a destination, so I don't think it
Hmm.
hurt us too much. Again, I had appointments, but we weren't up front like we typically are. I think we'll have a much nicer booth space next year.
Yeah.
And I also was teasing Paul, our president. Usually as we grow companies, through our years, you start with a smaller booth, and you get to a really large booth space, and for whatever reason, Aganorsa seems to each year get smaller. And next year we're going to have one table at our booth and two chairs. And
Yeah.
so I was teasing him about that. So I challenged his manhood a little bit there, and I think we'll have a much nicer presence next year.
Yeah. Yeah, I
But
guess if one is a quality manufacturer, maybe the location isn't as
yeah,
relevant.
no, not. I don't think for an Aganorsa.
Yeah.
Maybe for a smaller, newer manufacturer, possibly, but
Yeah.
not for us. So everyone seemed to find us.
What do you think about the PCA changing up the dates? I don't know if it's for next year.
Yeah, it'll be in March.
It will?
It'll be in Vegas in March of next year, and then of course
And
here in New Orleans.
New Orleans, yeah.
Your backyard, the following year, which I'm excited about. I think it's great for the retailers. I think it's been a demand. It's I guess maybe it depends on the retailer and what part of the country, but I think March is a good time, no matter where you are in the country, to introduce new lines, bring a new product. You're kind of thawing out from the winter, and it's a good time to launch it. Selfishly, me as a representative, and maybe some of the manufacturers, will probably have a gaping hole in sales next July. Since we don't have the show there, but we'll work through that. Obviously.
Yeah, that'll be interesting to see how like the sales are change if they are.
Yeah,
with the move.
Yeah, so. But I think for us and for the retailers, and of course it's a retail organization, I think it's the right move.
Yeah.
To move it to the spring. So that'll be good.
Yeah, it'll be interesting.
To it.
Well, I'm definitely not going to miss the heat of Las Vegas in the middle of July.
No, it's
not that we really.
It's not like we're hanging outside that much, right? Yeah. It's not being held outdoors, and typically if you're staying at the host hotel, you never see the light anyhow, really, right? So you're in the hotel all week in Vegas, but definitely I think in New Orleans, it's going to be. It's going to be nice because New Orleans, where I think we're out and about a little bit more, partaking in the bars and the restaurants down there in the French Quarter. So I think March will be much nicer than July or August.
Yeah. If it's held in March or April, I forget what month.
Yeah.
It'll definitely be a lot nicer.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Looking forward to that.
Well, cool. Well, going back to this cigar, I'm enjoying it. This Aganorsa Leaf Anniversario Connecticut.
Good.
Like you said, it's not your grandfather's Connecticut blend. That's just mild, no flavor.
Yeah, a little fuller strength, more body to it, more complexity. So yeah.
Now I see this other box. What can you tell me about that? Aganorsa.
So this is our Rare Leaf Reserve. This is something that we offer to our select partners. You guys happen to be a select partner. It's something we don't sell to all retailers. I don't know the exact numbers. I think we probably have 200, 250 retailers around the country that are select partners now. Traditionally, it's been in a Corojo blend, but this year we released it in a Maduro blend.
Okay.
So
yeah, and we've stocked this since day one, and for me, just not just because you're here, I think so far this is the cigar of the year.
I love it.
From out of all the cigars I've smoked to date.
It's one of our fuller strength blends too in our portfolio.
Yeah, I don't know if the camera can see it. I'll just put it up.
Yeah, so that one is offered. We do both the Corojo and the Maduro blend. We offer in a Toro and Robusto, your two top selling cigars in our business. But in the Corojo, we do a Lonsdale size or the third size. In the Maduro, we do a box press torpedo.
What's your take on that size, that format?
Lonsdale?
Yeah.
I love Lonsdales.
Yeah.
I've always loved Lonsdales. One of the companies I repped years ago was SAG Imports, formerly Fonseca, now Casada Cigars, but they had a Lonsdale in the Fonseca vintage I always loved. And I thought it was, unfortunate that more manufacturers offered Lonsdale sizes. But you're seeing more and more of it, but I think it's a spectacular size.
And what's, I guess, a traditional Lonsdale format? It's around 6
by 44, I believe, would be a traditional Lonsdale.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's where ours falls.
I know like JFR or Aganorsa Leaf, they're instrumental among a few other companies into kind of bringing the large ring gauge format.
It's kind of a funny story behind that. I was visiting with Paul Palmer, our president, and this goes back probably 20 years plus. And he was, we're a traditional Cuban company,
Mhm.
where we bring guys that are forced into retirement at a young age in Cuba, 60, 65, and give them beans to live on. We bring these guys over to Nicaragua and legends of our business, and we pair them with the top agriculture and engineering students at the universities there. So they're passing this knowledge on,
Wow.
to the next generation. And using the Nicaraguan resources. So everything we do, whether it be the growing, whether it be the curing in the barns, the fermentation, you look at the caps in our cigars are triple capped. That's a signature of
Mm.
Cuban quality. So
Mhm.
so everything did done is traditional Cuban. And Paul was talking to me again. This goes back. It was probably 20 plus years ago about introducing some new sizes, new lines, and he was talking about a lot of traditional Cuban sizes. Montiers, Lanceros, Diademas, and I said,
Mm.
that's good for your real geek, but I said, 95% of your consumers out there, maybe not the size for them. And at the time we were repping Gurkha and La Gloria, and they were pioneering some of these larger ring gauges, 6x60s. So I had shared with Paul, maybe you should consider doing a 6x60. I'm seeing a real trend in this. And he said, that's a tree trunk. Who's going to smoke a tree trunk?
Right.
And almost like I insulted his mother. So okay, you do you, buddy. So about 2 years later, Paul calls and says, I'm thinking about introducing a 6x60 in the JFR line and call it the Titan. What do you think? And I thought, you should have done it 2 years ago. I
Right.
thought maybe it was a trend, you might have missed the boat on
Yeah.
this one, right? But so here's a company that wouldn't introduce a 6x60. And, several years later, we decided to kind of create a little buzz at the trade show. And, what do we do? And one of our reps said, why don't we come out with one up ourselves and come out with a 7x70? And at the time, prior to inflation and everything else, this again goes back years, sell it for a retail of $7.70. And being the grower, we can afford to do that. But we're not making big margin,
Yeah.
in a cigar like that. I think they're 12 leaves of tobacco or something in the filler of that, right? At 770. So we thought, genius, that'll be fun. We'll create a little buzz at the show about this large cigar. It's supposed to be a limited edition cigar. We were only going to do 1,500 boxes at the show that year,
Mhm.
and just the Corojo blend. And then we go to the show without blinking. I think we sold over 3,000 boxes. So Paul said, we got to honor their commitments. So we made the additional boxes. We shipped them to retailers. That's it. We're done. And then, we got crucified by our retailers. No, 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 you got to keep making it. My people love it. So we were forced into, continue to make the 770 and the Corojo and eventually in the Maduro as well. In fact, I think if you still look at the boxes on the top, it still says LE for
Yes.
limited edition.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
that's what that's for.
I
So
always wondered that, like, why do they have limited edition
yeah,
when it's not? It's
yeah.
always available.
But that was,
But initially it was supposed to be.
it was going to only be 1,500
Oh.
boxes, and retailers kind of forced us into continuing to
Mhm.
do that. So that's how that launched, and then next thing you know, everyone thought we were crazy at the show that year,
Yep.
absurd.
I've heard the
size,
stories, yeah.
and the next year, I guess that everybody started introducing 7x70 sizes,
Yeah.
and so one of the publications, I forget which one, but one of the publications in the industry was doing an interview with Paul, and talking about this trend we had started in the business. And I think one of the questions they asked, one of the final questions they asked of him is, what are you guys currently working on, and what's coming down the pipeline? And he jokingly said, "Oh, I'm thinking about doing an 8x80 and calling it enough,"
Yeah.
And but they printed it, and for the next 2 years, retailers, hey, when you come out with that 8x80, and it's like, we're not, we're just joking. No, no, you
Oh,
got to do it.
no.
My people would love it. So eventually, we were forced into making that size by our
Uh-huh.
retailers, and that's what became the lunatic.
Yeah.
You got to be a little crazy to smoke an 8x80. So we launched the lunatic line. It was, I think the original concept was just to do that one size, and then that's kind of grown into
Mhm.
other sizes. Again, by consumer and retailer demand. So yeah, a company that wouldn't, introduce a 6x60 years ago because it was a tree trunk is now, introducing 770s, 880s, and at the latest trade show
Yep.
we did a 10x100,
Yep.
right? But people love them. I think what's unique is that a lot of times when you smoke a larger ring gauge, you lose flavor in the blend. And I've heard some people say, "Oh, it's a larger ring gauge, right? You're getting more airflow."
Yeah.
That's not what it is. What typically happens is these manufacturers buy tobacco from us, or other growers will buy lower priming tobaccos, the Seco primings, and they do that for a couple of reasons. One, first and foremost, it's affordable to them. You're not breaking the bank and selling this large ring gauge at $40, right? So you can do it affordably. Two, it's good for combustion, good for burn. But three, it is a neutral tobacco. Your Seiko tobaccos are very mild. So they're stuffing these larger ring gauges with these milder tobaccos, and that's what waters down the blend. But being the grower, we can use and afford to use the higher primings and blend to the size. So that's what we do. So I think a lot of people initially will buy a 770 or an 880. I hear the story all the time, from consumers or retailers that somebody will come in to go golfing with their friend and, looking for a cigar for the golf course, and they'll see that and go, oh, that'll be great.
Yeah.
I'll smoke that and get a laugh out of my friends. And
Yeah.
they light it up and like, wow, this thing's actually really good.
Yeah.
And I hear it all the time. It's my golf course cigar. It lasts all 18 holes, and I've got some left for the 19th hole.
Yeah.
So
yeah, no, I think a lot of those cigars start out that way, where the end consumer might buy it just because it's a novelty,
exactly.
but they smoke it and realize, what, this is actually really good, and they incorporate in their wheelhouse. So
I've kind of had some fun with retailers. We introduced a new size in the original JFR, the classic JFR line, called Mi Favorito. And it's a 5x70. So all joking, when you don't have 4 hours to smoke the 7x70, you only have 2 hours, you can smoke the 5x70.
Yeah.
So, but I'd have fun with retailers. I'd show up at shops like, so what you got today, Ryan? And I said, well, listen, I'm going to give you a sample. And if you smoke it while we visit, I'll give you some more samples. Sure. What do you got? And I bust out that 5x70. It's like, you bastard, you're going to really make me smoke that thing. But 9 out of 10 times, I twist their arm, I can get them to smoke it. And inevitably they'll 30 minutes, 45 minutes of the conversation go, wow, this is really, really good. And again, it's like, yeah, that's why I wanted you to smoke it. It may not be your everyday size, but again, we blended the size. That's what sets us apart.
Yeah. No, it's really interesting. And I saw that 10 by 100.
Yeah.
That hasn't hit the market yet.
It hasn't. We haven't started shipping those yet. I think that'll be later this month.
Okay.
So
I know we ordered some.
Yeah, it came in a single coffin, 10 by 100. I think we're limited on what we can do on that. Obviously we grow in Nicaragua. We don't grow in Mexico. So we have to outsource that San Andreas. And I would imagine it takes a very special leaf, a very large leaf, to roll a cigar that large. So we were limited to 1,500 coffins at the show and blew through them.
Wow.
So yeah.
That might be truly a limited edition, maybe.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if maybe we did it as a limited edition at next year's show. Could be.
Could be an annual.
An annual limited edition, but it's absolutely a limited edition in that sense. But yeah, we probably have to stockpile and hoard more of this large San Andreas wrapper for it.
Did you get a chance? Did you get a chance to smoke it?
I did not. I won't. That's a commitment.
Yeah.
I didn't. I had a retailer that showed up though the very first day and lit it up. And I honestly thought, in fact, I said, I gave him a sample of another, I think it was the Aniversario, Connecticut shade, another one of our new lines. He said, well, I'll smoke this after I finish the Lunatic 10 by 100. And I said, well, that'll be Tuesday, I guess. Right.
Yeah.
So I honestly thought he'd, turn the corner after he walked out of the booth and put it out. Right. But I actually so that was the very first appointment of the very first day. And later that day at 5 p.m., I had an appointment with him over at the St. DuPont. And sure enough, he was still over there working that cigar. I told New Respect, and he enjoyed it. He's like, this is, again, not his size, but he really enjoyed it and loved it. So
yeah, what kind of smoking time would that be?
Oh my gosh,
like 8 hours, 6 hours,
right? I mean, well, I saw him at 10 a.m. and this was 5 p.m.
Yeah.
I saw him, and he was it wasn't a nub by any means. At that point, he was still working on it. He was probably about 3/4 of the way through it, but he was still working on it. And he never finished it because they kicked him off the floor at 6. So,
oh man.
So yeah.
And what is the MSRP? Do you know on that one? I forget.
I believe it was $40 retail.
Okay.
I believe $40 retail was it. Don't quote me on that, but I'm pretty sure it was $40 retail.
Yeah, that'll be interesting to see how that takes off.
Yeah, absolutely. I quit asking, when we did the 770, I thought this is crazy.
Yeah.
And again, we blew through them. I told you that story. We launched the 8x80, we blow through them, creates a buzz. It's like, I quit asking and just write the orders now, so there's a consumer for it though.
Yeah. I remember Paul had told me years ago, an anecdote when they launched the 7x70 it was at the trade show. I forgot what year it was. Another manufacturer went to the booth, saw it, and found out the pricing. And he told he was just
killing me.
Yeah, he's like he was incredulous. Like, what are you doing? You're gonna disrupt everything.
Yeah, that manufacturer, I happened to be there for it. It was a
you were there?
Yeah, I repped at the time, and that manufacturer was introducing a 7x60 that year for I think $11.50 is where it was retailing, and of course they come out with a 7x70 for $7.70. It's like you're killing me here. You gotta raise the price on that thing. So yeah. In fact, I remember I was at a shop in downtown Fort Worth, Tobacco Land Square, after we just launched that 770. And it was a beautiful shop and had, but had a small smoking area with like 4 wingback chairs. And there was an older gentleman there, and he had to be, pushing 90 if he wasn't 90. Petite older gentleman, but dressed to the nines. I mean, he had, a 3-piece suit on. Kind of hanging on him though, right? You know, a
Oh,
frailer older gentleman, but there he was smoking the 7x70,
oh,
and it was just comical. You know, this cigar was literally, bigger than he was. You know, so I got to visit with this gentleman about it, and he said, "Yeah, I used to smoke the small one before you guys launched this size." And I said, "Oh, the Robusto?" He goes, "No, the Titans." I said, "The small ones,
oh,
right?"
man.
A month ago, a 6x60 was a large cigar. Now it's the small
Yeah.
ones. So
And I always found it interesting that I think Aganorsa is the only one when they use that term Titan, it means the 6x60 format because they use that same right
yeah,
that
yeah,
Vitola
yeah. We
name for like the new Cuba.
Correct. Yep. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and
You're
others.
absolutely right. 6x60. It's the new Cuba. We have a Titan in that in three blends: Connecticut, Corojo, Maduro, in the JFR, in the Connecticut Corojo, Maduro, and we actually did in the rare leaf. We did a Titan size as
Yeah,
well
they,
in
they
the
call it
Corojo.
Titan. Yeah.
Titan, yeah, but that one will be discontinued for the Lonsdale
Oh,
in favor of the Lonsdale that I spoke of earlier.
okay.
So, but yeah, so that's specifically our 6x60 size.
And what's the outlook for the new Cuba? What's it called? The
It's called the
Especiales?
New Cuba Superior.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So this is so it's I don't know how much I can. It's a nice mild blend, creamy blend. You know, most of our
But it's not a
cigars.
bundled cigar, right?
It's not a bundled cigar.
Like the other
Traditionally,
new
the new
Cubas.
Cuba is a bundled cigar, but this will be long fill, premium,
Okay.
a very traditional Cuban look to it with filete on it. The bands have the Cuban flag, real nice look. We'll be launching those later this month in three sizes: a Corona, excluding state tax, a Corona at 650, a Robusto at 750, and a Toro at 850. And it's going to have a nice sweetness to it, to the blend. So I think it'll be, for me, I think it'll be a nice stepping stone cigar from people that might enjoy, your whether it be your infused products or your sweetened products like say a Deadwood, a Rough Rider, or a Baccarat. You know, they've got that more pronounced sweetness. It'll be a nice stepping stone from those cigars to a more traditional blend
Oh, okay.
because it's got a nice mild undertone of sweetness that I think really complements the tobacco.
And that is one thing Aganorsa doesn't do, huh? Or like the
No,
sweet, like what I call the artificially sweet, where they
no,
actually put whether it be honey or
yeah, yeah.
so they just stick to the traditional
Traditional,
format.
yeah,
Yeah,
yep.
yeah. Do you remember the Arsenio? The Arsenio?
Of course I do.
Yeah, I love
Arsenio
that.
Ramos.
Yeah.
He was one of these gentlemen that came over from Cuba to work with us in Nicaragua, and they'd tell me what a legend he was, but
Mhm.
didn't really strike home for me.
Yeah, a
But
lot of
he
them they're
was
so humble you wouldn't
Yeah,
know.
absolutely. And so he was, but he was a published author in Cuba, ran Cuba Tobacco, and wrote three books on the culture of tobacco in Cuba. And but it didn't occur to me until one year we had the trade show in New Orleans, and they introduced him to me, during setup, and nice to meet you. He didn't speak any English, and my Spanish is horrible. But mucho gusto, that kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
But anyhow, as I'm again running from booth to booth, as an independent rep across the floor, I'd look over and I'd see Arsenio talking with Padron Senior. Then I'd see him later talking to Fuente Senior. And who's who of the business, right?
Yeah.
And I'm having drinks with Paul one evening after the show, and I said, "Is Arsenio going senile? Is he asking for directions back to our booth? He's in everyone's booth but ours." And he goes, "No, I'm telling you, the guy's a legend. It's they come over to our booth, they grab him by the arm, they drive him back to their booths, and they wanted to
Oh,
get
yeah.
his feedback, his opinion." So a lot of these legends that we look up to here in the States,
Yeah.
they look up to Arsenio. So it really struck
Wow.
me. So yeah, we did the Arsenio and the old Casa Fernandez line, the Miami.
Mhm.
We did a size in a Corolla and Maduro, and then we had the Arsenio Oro. And those might be lines that we reintroduce in the future, but again,
Okay.
remarket, market and the merchandising to
Hmm.
again get our logo and everything. So we might see those again. The tried and true blends, people loved them, but we've kind of been focused for the
Yeah.
past couple years on some of the core lines and the JFRs and things like that.
Yeah. Yeah, I hope they bring back because I love that
Oh, absolutely. Oh,
Arsenio.
I sold a ton of
Yeah,
those things.
the Crow and the
Yeah,
Maduro.
yeah, great little 10 count box,
Yeah.
affordably
They
priced.
have the little tobacco leaves, I
Yeah,
guess, as a cushion,
yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
5x54, I think it was, if memory serves. But yeah, those were real popular. So yeah, you and me both. I'd love to see that come back. I sold a
yeah,
ton of them.
yeah. Well, to ask you about maybe some like personal like cigar habits of yours, how many cigars on average are you smoking? And I guess it
It's
depends on like what
it
day.
depends, absolutely. If I'm out and about and seeing accounts, then I can I'll smoke 4 or 5 cigars in a day. And if I'm doing an event that evening, it could be 6 cigars that day.
Mhm.
But if I'm working out of the office or something, or I'm not out seeing accounts or spending family time, I won't have any cigars.
Mhm.
I don't crave any or anything like that. I for a long time back in the day, I liked real rich and full strength, full flavored cigars. I found myself as I've gotten older, kind of
Yeah.
starting with, again, I'm not a Connecticut shade smoker, but a lot of the new Connecticut's, if you will, in the industry, HVC, Aganorsa, some of these are fuller, more complex. I'm enjoying those in the morning with a cup of coffee, and I kind of find myself building through the day, and I'll finish the day with something richer, stronger. So kind of building through the day.
I feel like that's a natural progression for the cigar smokers like journey. They especially if you start younger, you usually go bolder. I don't know if
Mhm.
it's like a machismo thing,
Who
but as we
knows?
get older, it's like, you know what? Let's
Yeah,
go to more refined, maybe more elegant,
exactly.
milder.
Exactly. And I don't want strength, take your head off. I like
Yeah.
full flavored, full bodied, but I want something that's balanced.
Hmm. And do you have any preferences for pairing? Like when you do pair a cigar with like a drink, whether it be alcohol or non-alcohol? Like what's your
Typically
favorite?
alcohol.
Yeah, yeah. Okay.
I'm a lush. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
It depends. I find myself in the hotter months, drinking more, maybe a New England IPA, sipping tequilas, things like that. And then as it gets colder, the spirits get darker. So
Okay.
in the winter months, I really enjoy a nice bourbon, or a nice stout beer.
Any favorite bourbon?
Oh man, that's a tough one. There's so many good bourbons out
Yeah.
there. I think, I'm always looking for, a good value,
Okay.
so a nice bourbon at a nice price,
Yeah.
I like Elijah Craig, Basil Hayden, some of those things are good. Woodford's still a nice one, for the money.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know much about the bourbon sector, but I'm always intrigued by that because it seems to be very similar to like the cigar industry
Hmm.
and some of like the same dynamics. So,
Yeah,
uh,
absolutely.
favorite cutter?
Favorite cutter.
Yeah. What style of cutter do you like?
You know what? It's kind of funny, and I'm a representative for ST DuPont products,
Yeah.
right? But I've kind of gotten through the years where I had lost so many nice cutters, especially at events, and it's nothing malicious. I think I do it sometimes. I'll end up at the end of the day, and I've got someone's lighter, a retailer's lighter. It's not
Oh
mine. I'll
no.
send them a text and a
Yeah.
picture going, "Hey, I owe you a lighter. My
Yeah. Yeah.
apologies." It's nothing intentional. It's
Right.
just
Right.
you
No,
just
it
pocket
happens. Yeah.
things.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'm doing events or something, and I'm handing out my lighter, my cutter to people, and inevitably they get lost somewhere in the
Hmm.
crowd, and so got tired of losing the nice sliders and cutters. So it's I find myself doing more and more the old Cuban way, and just kind of pinching the cap off my cigar,
Oh.
and smoking it that way.
Yeah.
But if I'm not doing that, if it's usually I'm classic straight cut.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah,
Classic straight cut. That's what I
yeah,
like too.
yeah, yeah.
But if it does have a pigtail cap, I've noticed myself just kind of like trying to
Yeah,
pull it.
JFR is great for that. But yeah, I do it. I think I kind of, Paul Palmer, with Aganorsa was actually one of the first I saw that would just, you don't need a cutter, you just kind of with his nails, pick off the cap, and,
Yeah.
if the scar's rolled right, that's all you really need to do. You don't need to, you know, murder the thing, and
Yeah.
butcher it, so you just get that cap off and it should draw for you just fine.
Hmm.
But yeah.
Favorite style of lighter or match?
Um, Torch kind of
Okay.
gets the job done,
Hmm.
typically three jet, something like that. But I'm really liking, a lot of the nice ones there. In fact, we at ST DuPont, they introduced a new line. It's called the Big D. I don't know if you got over and saw that at the show, but it looks like a lot of the traditional line two ST DuPont lighters
Okay.
that, traditional, that with the ping, the
Yeah, to give
signature
insight to
ping.
maybe people who aren't familiar with SD DuPont.
Yeah, they're out
Yeah.
of Paris. They've been around forever, I think
Mhm.
150 years, something like that, out of Paris, and one of the few in our industry worldwide luxury brands.
Mhm.
So yeah, they've been traditionally, before I even got into cigars, with my dad with his
Yeah, the
DuPont
ping.
and the
Yeah,
ping,
yeah.
and that's that signature ping. And so the line too, it's a traditional soft flame, roller, flint, but those, retail, the line twos, retail, $1,200, $1,300, somewhere in there. And We launched a line at the show that looks just like a line two. It's called the Big D. But instead of the roller on the side, you push it in, and the lid doesn't open. Doesn't ping. It's just got a slot in the top and it has 4 jets, and it's a beautiful flat flame.
Yeah,
And the
I
price
remember
points are
that.
great. You know, 400 and I think $25 retail
Okay.
on the big D's. So that created a real buzz at the show. So they did those, and they also did it in a thinner version called the Slimmy, and they did a taller version called the Twiggy. But those went over real big at the show.
Okay. Cool.
So
Cool. Well, I think we're ready to wrap it up. But before we let you go, we have a final segment. If you don't mind participating, it's basically a lightning round of questions, 4 questions. Are you up for it?
we'll see, I guess.
Yeah.
I'm up
So,
for it.
all right, it's the final puff. So 4 questions, rapid fire. Number 1, Tabasco, Crystal, or other hot sauce?
I would say Tabasco. Forgive me. I can't say I'm real familiar with Crystal.
Okay.
Yeah, I got really into the Chipotle.
You're in
The
Chipotle?
Chipotle sauces. Yeah, I got turned on to it here in Louisiana. I think I was at Drago somewhere, and they had a Chipotle Tabasco sauce. So
Oh,
great
yeah.
on the char-grilled oysters.
Oh, nice.
So I can't find that though, right? So I, be getting Chipotle hot sauces at some of the markets up near Dallas where I live.
Okay. Number 2, favorite vacation destination?
Ooh, that's a tough one. I'm kind of a person that, been there, done that, so I go someplace, and there's so
Okay.
many wonderful places, and life's too short. I'm, always on to another place, but I've been blessed. A friend of mine that I made out of the shops in Dallas has a boat out of Fort Lauderdale, and he's kind enough to take us through the Bahamas each summer. So we've been for the last few summers doing 2-week trips, island hopping through the Bahamas. So probably the Bahamas.
Very cool. Number 3, the ideal person you would want to smoke a cigar with, alive or deceased?
Whew, that's I don't know if Jesus Christ would smoke a cigar with me,
Yeah.
so maybe I can't say Jesus. I don't know. That's a real good question. Hemingway would be a neat person, but I don't know if he ever smoked
Yeah,
cigars.
I don't think he really
I've
smoked.
never seen a picture of
Yeah.
him smoking cigars. If someone could get me one, that'd be great. But I don't think he did. He
Yeah.
lived in the Cuban culture and
Yeah.
all that, but
Yep.
I don't think he ever really smoked cigars. That's a tough one, Louis. That's a real tough one. Um, I might have to get back to you on that one.
We'll go with Jesus. I think he'd be a cigar
You
smoker.
think he'd be a cigar smoker?
Yeah.
All right, fair enough. JFK might be cool too. He was a cigar smoker.
Yeah.
He'd be a neat one.
Yeah. And the final one, your desert island cigar.
Ooh, now that's
Yeah.
even tougher. It's
Mhm.
picking your favorite child.
Yeah.
I mean, gee. Oh, it's I don't know. That's I tell
And I
people
know
all the time.
I'm putting you on the
Well,
spot
I
since you
tell people all the
represent.
time. I get consumers that'll come to events and go, "Man, I love your cigars. That's all I smoke." And I say, "Well, thank you so much. Appreciate the support, but I love cheeseburgers, but I'm not eating them for every meal, right? I need
Yeah.
variety, and
Right.
that's kind of who I am.
Okay.
Constantly switching it up. So that'd be a real tough one to answer.
Yeah.
I
Hey,
can't
no
pick a
answer. That's
favorite.
fine.
I apologize.
No, it's all good.
But that's the honest truth. I'm not trying to be diplomatic or anything,
Well, kind of like your vacation
but,
destination. You like to try
I
different.
like variety,
Yeah.
So yeah, it'd be a tough one to say.
Oh, fair
Probably,
enough.
and again, might be a little bias,
Yeah.
but something with Aganorsa tobacco, and
Okay.
there are a lot of good ones out there, whether it be
Yeah.
their products, what Rainier does with HVC, Dion Giolito's got a great palette, the Illusione products, so
Mhm.
probably something in that portfolio.
Yeah. We'll leave it right there. So thanks again for coming in today. I appreciate your insight.
I appreciate you
Yeah.
for having me, Louis.
Yeah. So we'll see you again, hopefully in the future. And thanks to everyone for listening in. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you until the next cigar.